Hello, BookTube. Well, it's a bleak and barren Sunday here in Boston, and for those of you who might be new to the channel, that is my horrible self-pitying name for a day when no mail comes. It's a Sunday here, and there's no mail delivery, so I don't get any free books from the slot at the front door. And this turns my attentions unhealthily inward. And ordinarily I do a tag to appease myself, but today I thought I would instead do a return, sort of a return swing at Last Week in BookTube, which is a regular feature that I do on this channel. Again, for those of you who might be new and not have seen it, it's where I look back on the previous week in BookTube and talk about some of the highlights of the stuff I saw. It's not meant in any way to be comprehensive. I watch an enormous amount of BookTube, and I love a lot of stuff that's not on this list, and I'm sure there was a lot of stuff I would have loved that I didn't see. But these are just some highlights that I wanted to share with you. And of course, it being the first week of July, a good solid 90% of all videos uploaded to BookTube last week were June wrap-ups and July TBRs, and there's no sense going through those. A lot of them were very interesting, especially the TBR parts. What people are looking forward to reading always fascinates me, especially the overlaps. But there's no sense going through those. There were hundreds and hundreds of them. There were things that stood out apart from those, and I wanted to talk about a couple of those. One of the things that has been sweeping BookTube, actually a legitimate sweep, was Jayesh Chhaya's tag, the male BookTuber tag. It definitely struck a chord. It got people doing responses. It got people making long lists of their favorite male booktubers. I actually found it fascinating, and of course it added enormously to the list of my subscriptions. But good on him for on Jayesh Chhaya for seeing that there was a need for this thing and striking a chord. That was wonderful. And Ben Sanders continued his BookTube newbie shout-out tag along the same lines, a thing that is guaranteed to add channels to your subscription list. And a wonderful thing, too, he just goes through all of the people who have joined BookTube in a week-long given period of time, watches them enough to get a feel for them, and then encourages them to do more. And I do, too. I have been watching his BookTube newbie shout-outs for, all of the episodes that he's been doing, and I have noticed something that I don't particularly like, which is that there is already a visible attrition. There is already a visible trend of some people not making a second video or not continuing. Now, I know not everybody has the time to do this several times a day. Some of you put on pants. But still, I always want people to keep it up because it can be a lot of fun. Let's see here. A Case for Books started the Anna and Eric book club, teaming up with Karl Anderson from The Lonesome Reader and from his own BookTube channel. That was a lot of fun. I hope they continue it. And there was something else here too. Oh yes, Simon Savidge who needs no introduction at this point, of course. He did an interview with the great Natalie Haynes about her novel The Children of Jocasta. And wisely, although I'm not 100% sure that he had a choice in the matter, let her do most of the talking. She is compellingly bright, and you could listen to her talk about anything all day long, much less her own book or Greek mythology. So I'll leave a link to this and to everything else down below, because I highly recommend that you go and spend the time if you haven't seen it already. And then there were a handful of reviews. I can't help it. I know that according to some BookTube metrics, they're not the most popular kind of video you can do, but I'm a reviewer, and I love watching reviews. And even in a week that was absolutely saturated with wrap-ups and TBRs, there were still a handful of reviews that I watched that I want to recommend to you. Like, for instance, Acacia Ives did one on Sarah Schmidt's book, See What I Have Done, which she made a lot more headway in making worthwhile sense of that book than I did, that's for sure. I gave it the good old college try. Didn't get anywhere near as far into it as she did. Then Plots and Points did The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, that has undergone a tremendous vogue, both in the book chat world and on BookTube. And he found he did a much better job with the book than I would have done. I read the book, and I knew immediately, within 100 pages, that I was reading something that would become a cause celeb, that would get attention everywhere. And with books like that, I always worry that they know that too, and that they're going to underperform in all the ways that a book actually should perform. And I don't know. I thought that mostly happened. And also for stylistic reasons, I'm sure the word "you" in the title is misspelled as a single letter. But I'm not even supposed to mention that. No one is even supposed to mention that. The letter "U" is not the word "you," but that's all right. Then Book Your Imagination finally got around to reading *Handmaid's Tale* and did a wonderful job reviewing it. I thought I was fascinated as if the thing were brand new. And Dee Dee at Brown Girl Reading did *Family Life*. She did a review of *Family Life* by Akhil Sharma, a book I absolutely loved. And if her review doesn't make you want to go out and try it, then I don't know what will. So just go to the library and reserve it. And that was it for reviews. And then I want to wrap up with a few general things. It was a leaner last week in BookTube than a lot of them are, just because everybody was using the end of the month to placehold. But there were some general videos that I wanted to talk about, including a double blast of CanLit, if you can stand that. The Poptimist did a great encyclopedic video on what did he call it? My CanLit Throwback. A quick thumbnail autobiography of his association with CanLit that was just incredible. It was this psychic tour. It was amazing. And also, BookTube last week saw the return of Jason Purcell, the face and voice of CanLit himself. Hoping to make more BookTube videos. I'm hoping he doesn't fall prey to the aforementioned attrition. And let's see here. Jen Campbell did a really good video on the history of books. I saw the title of it, and I realized that it was actually going to be a video about the entire history of books. And I thought, oh, come on. Even you, the mighty Jen Campbell, cannot possibly do justice to that subject in one video that's under an hour long, but she does. It's a well worth your time to watch. One Book, One Review did one of her. She has this ongoing thing where she does a letter to the outgoing month, and her letter to June was beautiful, just beautiful. They all are. They're just beautiful. But this one was lovely, well worth your time. And the aforementioned Karl Anderson, on his channel, he did a wrap up of his favorite books, the best books of 2017 so far, and it was extra. I mean, it was fascinating anyway because he's an industrious, sensitive reader. But it was extra fascinating for me because this is a guy whose tastes do not align with my own at all. And ordinarily, probably 60% of the time, when I see a reader whose tastes don't align with mine at all, and they're holding up one book after another that I just hurled across the room, I can resort to saying, well, they like these things, but they don't read much. so it's possible that their opinions can be slightly discounted, but I can't do that with him. Now, can I? I can't do that. I probably shouldn't legitimately do that with anybody, except that he consistently holds up books that he really liked, that really spoke to him, that I thought were garbage. And I find that fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and also valuable. Actually, no matter what, it happens with anybody. If somebody has a BookTube channel and they have held up one piece of garbage after another, to the point where I subscribe to them and I like their videos and I'll comment on their videos and I'll watch their videos, but I start every video by saying, well, you like crap. You just you haven't refined what you like and don't like in too long. You aren't analyzing these books. You aren't holding them to a standard of quality that you would for, say, your car brakes. And that's not fair. So I know going into your video ahead of time that you're going to praise something that wasn't good, but that's okay. I still want to watch your videos. And even in cases like that, I will see somebody hold up a book that I think is just poop and praise it, and sure enough, there'll be a phrase or an insight or something that will make me think, oh, well, okay, maybe I should go back and look at that. I didn't think about that way, and I love that. I absolutely love that. It's one of the few things known to medical science that has any chance of keeping Steve off his high horse. and it just gets worse the more widely read a person is. Then I can't discount anything, not comfortably. I made a comment on Eric's video that someday, somehow, he and I must be on camera together. Wouldn't that be something? If we did like, for instance, in January of some year, if we looked back at the previous year in books, not agreeing on anything at all with that break BookTube. But the thing I wanted to end with, those of you who've seen this feature before on my channel will know that I often name a winner, even though this is not a contest. I name something that struck me the strongest, and extra recommended. I'm recommending all of these things, but in this case, it's a name that's familiar to the winner's spot. It's Neil Griffiths, I'm afraid to say. He did a video on, what was it called? Religion and God in Novels. And used the video to hold up a series of novels. And once I realized that's what he was doing, once I realized, he's going to hold up a series of novels as exemplars of this theme, and what are the chances that I will like any of them, much less all of them? Instead, it was one case after another. It's never happened in a BookTube channel before. One case after another, I was just looking at the screen going, yes, yes, over and over again. So I want to list the books for you. You should go and watch the video. But I want you to know, when he calls these books great, he's absolutely right, and you should read them all. There was Marilyn Robinson's Gilead. There was Anthony Burgess's great novel, Earthly Powers. He held it up in a beautiful, I think it was a vintage paperback. I would love to have that paperback, but I cannot recommend the book strongly enough. About, among many other things, a crude, as he calls it, thuggish man who eventually becomes Pope. He also recommended The Last Temptation by Nikos Kazantzakis, which is a fantastic book, gets better the more you read it. He recommended The Spire by William Golding, and I believe is therefore the only BookTuber who has ever recommended The Spire by William Golding. I cannot recommend it strongly enough. It is amazing. He recommended The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, which is, it's a BookTube favorite and well worth it. He recommended I'm leaving one out. Oh yes, I'm leaving out. He also talked about Brideshead Revisited. God bless him for highlighting the incredible, as he calls it, the background noise, the religious background text of Brideshead Revisited. People concentrate when they read the novel on so many other things. They tend to forget that it is in many ways a novel about religion, and compellingly so, beautifully written. So I highly recommend all of these videos. I especially want you to watch that one, because it's amazingly good. And that's it for last week in BookTube this time around, except for an extracurricular thing. I like to end these things with a little thing that isn't actually about books, but I recommend it anyway. And in this case, we're not straying far, because it's still by a BookTuber. It's by a BookTuber named Johnny Keene. And he did, among other videos, he's done a bunch of videos lately, and they're all really good. They're all really interesting. Heartfelt. But he did one recently that has no words. It's just a 35-second video of a young rabbit nibbling on foliage in the yard. That's all. It's like something you see on Caleb's channel. It was absolutely just a calm moment, which is very nice. It was very nice to see. And that's it. That is last week in BookTube this time around. And as usual, in the comments, feel free to point out stuff that I missed or that you really liked, because all I watch is BookTube and Netflix. But that's a tag for another day. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.